I was like, I want to sell this online. He goes, I'm not dealing with any of those cash or those fax machines. Get the out of my office. And I was like, oh shit.
Fax machine.
This is gonna be much harder than I thought.
This episode is brought to you by FultonFishMarket.com, the most trusted name in seafood. FultonFishMarket.com is the e-commerce provider for New York's iconic Fulton Fish Market, the largest seafood market in the Western Hemisphere, trusted by top chefs for over 200 years. Fulton Fish Market provides a range of world-class seafood options. FultonFishMarket.com can help you serve a wide range of customers, whether you serve high-profile individuals or just strive for culinary excellence. They deliver directly to your doorstep in all 48 contiguous states, providing a comprehensive selection of the finest seafood, from wild fish to caviar and shellfish. When it comes to seafood, FultonFishMarket.com is our go-to destination and the name we trust. Let's celebrate those who support us and dive into this episode of the Private Chef podcast with a taste of excellence and freshness. Visit www.fultonfishmarket.com to get 15% off your first order. Use code PrivateChef at checkout. Welcome to the Private Chef podcast, serving the 1%. I'm your host, Hannes Henche. And on our show, we speak to the best chefs, how they honed in on their skills to excel in the industry, and what it takes to work as a private chef for some of the most exclusive clients in the world.
Welcome back to the Private Chef podcast. Today we are in person at the Fulton Fish Market, and we're talking to the founder of the Amazon of Fish, Jody Meade. Welcome to the Private Chef podcast, Jody.
Happy to be here, Hans.
So let's start where it all started for you. How did you get to the Fulton Fish Market over a decade ago? What brought you there?
Well, luckily, I graduated from college at a time where no one was hiring, and I had the opportunity to move to New York City. I was dating a girl at the time, and her father asked me to just move, from our small town in northeastern Pennsylvania, and I took the opportunity to jump at it, and I couldn't find a job, and I wanted to make a mark on the world. So at the time, I was doing it all wrong. I was walking up and down Park Ave in my grandfather's, pleated suit. I looked like I was going to a disco, handing out my resume to any hedge fund manager that would take it, begging that person to make me rich, with very minimal work.
Yeah.
And 9 months later, I got a job at Zagat, the restaurant rating service, the holy grail of where to eat at a restaurant. And I loved it. It was great, but it was $13.50 an hour. Wasn't even, I couldn't even take the subway. I was poor, dollar slice pizza. And I read an article one day about a kid that quit his job at a hedge fund. He started selling oysters, and I said I could sell oysters. So I got in touch with the kid. Next day I was selling oysters, and it turned out I was a natural salesman. I started selling a lot of oysters fast to chefs I didn't know at the time were some of the best chefs in the city.
Yeah.
And I could care less then about food because I knew nothing of it. I grew up in a house with my parents and my two brothers, and we weren't like international cuisine experts. My mom cooked 7 days a week, the best food that I still think is the best food, and I tell all my chefs that. Yeah, it's my comfort food. But all we had, I thought we were rich at the time, but we were loved. Like, that was rich for us. So we were eating, chicken parmesan, which is still, one of my favorites. But I was selling oysters to these chefs, and it was so natural to me if I was passionate about selling oysters, and they were good. And I was selling to, the best of the best, and they were buying, 30,000 a week from me, and they're like, dude, you show up every single night, every single day on holidays with the best oysters in the trunk of your car. And it wasn't even my car, it was my girlfriend at the time. You know, God bless her parents for letting me do this. And they're like, go to Fulton, be our fishmonger, be our guy. So I came up here on a freezing cold night in late December of 2009. And I asked the first guy I saw as soon as I walked in, you know, I can't be here. I have to be at work at 9 o'clock in the morning. It's 4 o'clock. We only work here from, 1 a.m. to 7 a.m. And I was like, I want to buy this stuff off of your website. And he laughed at me. He's like, dude, we don't have a website. He's like, go home and build us one. And I was like, all right. And I did. Like, that day, I saw, like, the opportunity of how to make it, but, like, that was, like, my calling. So I went home. I quit my job 3 weeks later. The guy actually offered me a full-time position. Like, it was a comfort job where maybe I'd be comfortable and maybe I would, grow into something else. But I was like, no, I have an idea and I'm going to run with it. And I came here every single night for 2.5 years. And I mean, my parents literally, they gave me $20, like, every single time I would come. And they gave me the opportunity to actually pursue this business, and I had to make it happen. Like, I knew the idea would work, but I also knew that no one else could do it because I was so driven and I was so crazy. I was out of my mind, like, to actually pursue this. I saw the vision. I was like, there's literally, 3 to 15 million pounds of fish here every single night.
Yeah.
People can't fathom what that looks like. They go to their local fish market. They're like, oh, we have 20 fish. We have everything. Fresh, frozen, live, whatever you want, we have it here. And I wanted to, like, put this online. So we just don't sell in the New York market to, the Northeast. I wanted to sell nationally. I wanted chefs in Omaha, Nebraska, in, Aspen, Colorado, Southern California to have Atlantic fish. And some of these guys here who are 6th generation fishmongers, their fathers before them, men and women owned companies. It took years to persuade them to be like, hey, listen, I know that you sell millions of dollars a day. You don't have a computer, you just have these cash machines that count cash. I was like, I can get you more of that cash. Like, trust me. Let me digitize
You have to
this.
speak their language.
Yes, over time.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the guys, I actually walked into his office and I was like, I want to sell this online. He goes, I'm not dealing with any of those cash or those fax machines. Get the fuck out of my office. And I was like, oh shit.
Fax machine.
This is gonna be much harder than I thought. But over time, like, I literally came every single day, and I thought, like, persuading them that the dream was there, but they saw for so long, like the horses in Central Park with the blinders on, they see one direction. Like their father taught them before. I was like, no, let's venture out. Let's go direct. We could do this. And they knew I wasn't going away.
They're like, this kid is so crazy, he will show up for the next 5 years too.
I walk into gas stations and it says, like, no loitering. Like, I am the loitering king of the South Bronx, New York City. Like, I hounded these people that didn't need the money, but I knew if we did it, it would be so incredibly special. And over time, I got all these guys. My parents gave me $3,000. My older brother was working with me at the time. I had a lawyer write something up, like some, BS contract. They all signed it, like, on the back of a piece of paper. And I met one investor through a friend. They're like, we're going to give you $3 million. And I was like, oh my God. I remember sitting in these people's office. They had hundreds of millions of dollars on the wall of art, like antique robots walking around. And I'm like sweating because my parking meter was running out. And I was like, I can't afford to get my car towed right now. Luckily, another investor called. The guy's name's Dan Levine. He's just as crazy as I am, but he's like he's literally a wolf in sheep's clothes. He said, meet me here on Friday. I know who you are. You don't know who I am. I know what you have. I know how long it took you to get it. We need to talk. Met with this guy. He knew exactly how to do it, where I didn't. I thought I knew how to do it. Sadly, he actually said we needed to do all this legal work again, and he gave me like a Bible of an exclusivity agreement. And it took me another year to get that signed. Because, I mean, if you hand these people a document to sign that's this big,
and they're very skeptical.
One of these companies predates the Civil War.
Yeah.
And the Fulton Fish Market at large.
Yeah, it's 201 years old.
Yeah, we're talking 1822. That's John Adams, Thomas Jefferson. 25% of the founding fathers of the United States signed the Declaration of Independence. Like, that's madness for these people to sign a legal document to go online and give the exclusive rights to their family business. But like respect in this market goes a long way. And these people knew, like, they trusted me. They trusted me because, like, I had nothing to win. I had nothing to lose. And they knew that. But I wish I can go back in time and meet that person that I was many years ago, because I had jet fuel, like, running through my body. If somebody told me no, like, I turned that no into, like, this fuel that just, like, no, we are going to do this. You're going to listen. And I'm going to show you. And, with my investor, who's still my investor today, he's like a brother to me. He's like, this is how we're going to do it. And we did it here first. I got all the vendors in the market. And to this day, these people, they still do millions of dollars a day. But I told each and every one of them, I was like, I'm going to bring you more millions a day if you trust me.
So how much of their revenue were you able to add by taking them online?
20%.
20%?
Yeah. Which is incredible for somebody that doesn't advertise.
And it's a good chunk for them. They don't need to do anything.
It's amazing to them that we sell their products to the Midwest, to California, to the Pacific Northwest. It's mind-boggling.
And this is something where me as a chef, I'll give you an example. I just came back from Aspen. I was in Colorado, and some of my clients were like, please don't buy fish here. It's not going to be as great, it's not going to be as fresh. And I think that's where you change the game for high-end chefs, because now we have an address to buy from anywhere in the country.
I would get off a plane in Denver, in Aspen, and sell to a chef. Like, open up my coat, it'd be like a snake oil salesman. I'd be like, what do you want? And they've never seen it before, though. Like, they'd be like, I can't get that. You're selling fairy dust. I'd be like, no. Not only can we get it, we can get it here today. Like, do you want it right now? Just give me the sale. Give me the sale. Let me prove to you that I can get, Nantucket Bay scallops to you by 9 o'clock in the morning, 3 hours before your lunch service. And they're like, that's impossible. But we broke the shipping model, where we used to piggyback off commercial airplanes. We truck it with our own trucks to the New York airports. We put it on the back of commercial airlines, landing in certain cities throughout the United States, and we'd have the last mile courier deliver it 3 hours before lunch service. And that, it blew their mind. They could have live scallops in their restaurants before their purveyor gets it, 3 days later.
Yeah.
Like, that's mind-boggling.
And that's something what really struck me, because as a private chef, we work for extremely demanding clients, and we want to provide that level of service. And that's when I understood the supply chain that you kind of connected there. It was just like, oh my God, like this is a different level, because even a lot of the families, they have these ideas that we go to the local shop and, just because there's an ocean in front of their beach house, everything comes from there. But the reality of supply chain just looks very different. And maybe you can guide us a little bit through what is the unique positioning of the Fulton Fish Market, and then your unique positioning in that, and why you really get us the freshest fish possible.
So the beauty of the Fulton Fish Market and why we're here today is because we sell it all. And 25% of this country's seafood, fresh and frozen, comes through this market every day.
Yeah.
And people hear about fresh fish, but nobody wants to deal with it. Like, you don't see fresh fish like this in a grocery store or retail market, because nobody wants to touch it. It's an expense to break down a piece of fish.
Yeah.
We have thousands of different products, fresh and frozen. It's the largest seafood market outside of Tokyo, outside of Tsukiji, and we're the mecca of fish. Like, if you want something from your local fish market, you can get it, but they might have a couple items, 20, 30 maybe. But if you want uni, you want fresh uni, in a tray. You want caviar. We have our own. I grew up in the middle of nowhere, Pennsylvania. We have our own caviar line. I forget sometimes, what I do. I'm just I'm talking to my buddies, we're just shooting the shit. I'm just oh yeah, I have my own caviar line. They're like, yeah, bullshit. I'm like, no, I do. Do you guys like caviar? But it's things like that. We have everything. When I started this business, it was as crazy as it is. I knew that it would work. I wish it happened faster, because it took literally.
Don't we all?
Yeah, it took what, 6 from conception, of the idea to actually launching. It took 6 years, and it only happened because between the idea, my parents actually helping me.
And how long did it take you? So 6 years to launch. How long did it take you till you felt like it's financially viable, and it can maybe carry you and your family?
Probably another 3 years.
Yeah. So we're 9 years in the trenches.
But this is at a time where.
Yeah.
Sorry for the interruption, but we gotta share the news with you. Nothing fishy from FultonFishMarket.com. They're delivering world-class seafood from New York City's legendary Fulton Fish Market straight to your door. Their fishmongers have helped countless chefs get what they need when they need it for over 200 years. Trusting FultonFishMarket.com means their experts work tirelessly to make your day run smoothly. Let your cooking skills shine and elevate your dishes with amazing seafood from FultonFishMarket.com.
Somebody like me, the idea happened. The legal aspect of it is behind us. The actual physical building of the company was exhausting.
Yeah.
Nobody ever built a SKU set of, a couple thousand different fish, but actually digitizing these fish, with images. I think we have close to 1 million different digitized SKUs of all different sizes, all different products from every single walk of life in this world, every continent. We have the largest book of actual SKUs. It took us 2 years of just taking images of fish.
Yeah.
We would have to buy $20,000, 6-ounce tins of caviar that nobody would eat. I remember a kid named Leo. He worked here for years. He would be living on a couch. He'd be like, "What are we doing? Do you want this? Are you taking this home?" I'm like, "I don't eat that shit. You take it home. I don't even we didn't know what that. We're eating ham sandwiches, and we think that's expensive." But we learned over years like how special. I think every person that walked through this door that worked here knew how special this place was and how innovative it was. And the weirdest part was once we actually started rolling and started, growing, it was weird. Like it was weird on an entrepreneur's level to be like, how do I take this? Because I didn't start the business to make money, because all of those years passed where like money didn't exist in my mind. I just wanted to do it. Like I wanted to do it because everyone told me I couldn't. And like that was special to me.
It was like, I'm gonna prove you all wrong.
Yeah. It was that. Like everyone. I wanted to show my parents, I wanted to show my investor Dan that, and well, he already knew, but he believed in it. But like I was so nervous towards the end if I couldn't get it, started. Like I was like, oh my God, I can't be full of shit. Like this has to happen. And like we made it out by the skin of our teeth. And the weirdest part was when it started to grow. Like the building of it was easy. To me, when it started to grow, it was unusual. Like to see it like, oh, there's a $250,000 machine. There's a $500,000 machine. Today we already dug the ground yesterday. We're building a 9,000 gallon tank to cryogenically freeze fish at negative 60 degrees.
Yeah.
And we already have the deep freezers that are at negative 84. I used to work here alone on Saturdays. Every Saturday, I took one Saturday off in my life, in my old life. And my biggest fear was getting stuck in the freezers. We have so many different freezers and they're all different temperature zones. And when we were growing and like chefs were seeking us out, it was so weird. I was like, why is this working? It didn't make sense. But like,
yeah. Well, it does make sense once you understand the uniqueness, the freshness. And as you said, you have so many different products that you can offer. And for someone like me, like if I fly to Colorado to work in a private estate in the mountains or something, I don't always have the time to build a new relationship with a local fish person, and then understand their supply chain on top of it.
Yeah.
So for someone who's working for the most elite clients in the world, I know now I have one address, and no matter where I am in the continental states, I can get the best fish and a variety that I can't get anywhere else.
Nowhere else. I mean, I always stayed on the chef side of it, and like I would say half of my best friends are chefs, and they're only my best friends because they trust me, because they know that I don't care what they do. I used to walk into, they're now celebrity chefs, people that have TV shows, just massive amounts of restaurants, artist chefs. And we hit it off because we would talk about like real life. And like I would pitch them on like, yeah, we have the best of the best, but they knew I wasn't bullshitting because I delivered.
Yeah.
And, people like in Aspen, Chef's Club in Aspen, they'd be like, oh my God, like you can get this? I'm like, yeah. They're like, could you get it to us, by Friday? I'm like, how about tomorrow morning? It's Tuesday. And they'd be like, what? And we did that for years. Like I know like every single chef in this country. I know every single one of them. Like, and we have a mutual respect for each other because they know I want nothing from them besides paying their bill. And they know I'm going to deliver. But like, I'm not a foodie. It's the weirdest thing. I'm not a foodie. My partner, she hates me, like, because like I love ham sandwiches. I love, peanut butter and jelly in a bowl of cereal. She benefits off the seafood, but I've been invited to every tasting menu by like people that won't answer the phone to the Food Network to do a show because they're artists, they're Michelin star.
Yeah.
They're, what is it?
Michelin star chefs.
Yeah, Michelin star, but like, what's the other one?
New York Times rated.
No, the James Beard.
Oh, James Beard.
James
Award,
Beard
yeah.
House.
Yeah.
It's just like sitting on a curb with like somebody that's real and talking about life. Like,
You know, I think there's something about chefs and the fish market here is what you said. You know, there's a lot of mutual respect in the chef industry because everybody knows how hard it is, how tough it is.
yeah,
Like,
it's horrible.
just like the hours here are like it doesn't allow your normal social life, and chefs kind of experience the same thing. Like our heaviest days are other people's holidays. You know, their vacation season is like peak workload.
Yeah.
Like summers for us in the Hamptons are like the craziest, while other people are like, yeah, it's summer, you know, let's leisure.
Yeah.
So I think there's a mutual understanding between what's going on in the fish market, what you're doing, and chefs, and there's a lot of respect just for that realness of life.
Yeah. My kids aren't allowed to be chefs, and they're not allowed to be fishmongers. That's it. They could be anything else.
So maybe they will. One of them become the hedge fund manager that you originally set out to be.
Please. I remember like the chefs. I say chefs slightly, but like there's artists. I have a very few amount of artist chefs that are above like Michelin to me. People that call me in the middle of the night, they're like, "What are other chefs not buying?" I'm like, "Yeah, I got some sea robin out of the East River for 80 cents a pound," and they'd be like, "Send me everything you got. I'm gonna make a sausage out of it." That's Matt Lampert. He used to own the Musket Room in NoHo, but he's back in Auckland, New Zealand now. He was like the most creative chef I've ever known.
This is a funny take. It's like, send me anything they don't have.
During like restaurant week, send me something that other chefs aren't buying. I'm like, yeah, it's full of bones. I mean, I'm not filleting it for you. I'll send you everything we got. He's like, great, I'm gonna make a sausage out of it. I'm like, that's disgusting. I'm gonna try it in a couple of weeks when it's ready. You dry age the shit out of that. I'll be down, dehumidify it, blow it up in an extinguisher. I don't care. I'm coming down to try it. And he won an award during restaurant week like 10 years ago for it. Amazing. Like that's. If I had the patience to write a book about my dealings with chefs and the availability that they had, I would love it. But I'm not a writer, and my favorite part was actually befriending a lot of them, and collecting. Collecting was my favorite part. Selling was easy. Collecting was hard. In the private chefs, I love them, and then the yachts, listening to your podcast, the yachts were some of the best customers. Shipping to marinas, it's awesome. They're not calling asking for 80-cent sea robin. It's $20,000 to $50,000 orders.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, yeah, I mean, it'll be there tomorrow.
And the beauty is, I mean, they're stocking up for whatever is coming up, and it could be like a week on sea with like 50 people on the yacht.
Yeah.
It's
incredible.
Different game, yeah.
I always loved the yachts. I'll say that. Private chefs. The thing I love about private chefs is how distinct they are, and they know exactly what they want when they call. There's no sense selling them or even offering them. Oh, we have this and we have that. They usually know what they want.
And it's not a zero.
And they're so simple, and their budgets are, out of this world. I'd be like, you're making my job easy, But I love it. Like I love the competitiveness of chefs. I would never want to be one. I enjoyed my years of like walking in the back door of restaurants, getting in places I have no business being in. I mean, chefs to me are extremely special people.
This is a statistic I quote quite a lot, but in Germany, there's an insurance stat that a chef has an average life expectancy of 57 years.
That's old.
Yeah.
That's old to me.
I don't know what the life expectancy in the Fulton Fish Market is.
Well, what's his name? Mark Forgione. He owns Pheasant now. He bought it off Frankie DiCarlo. Frankie DiCarlo, when he owned Pheasant, was one of my favorite people. Out of his mind, like we loved each other. I remember walking across Kenmore Street in Soho, and he goes, "What are you smoking crystal meth? I saw you 30 hours ago. Did you sleep yet?" I was like, "Frankie!" But like, that's the relationship. Like, out of his mind, like all of us. But it was such a fast decade of dealing with the best chefs. Like, I remember, talking to Daniel Boulud before he was Daniel Boulud. And I'm not that old. John George, like, these are all huge names in the restaurant industry. These are like, friends that, became friends through respect and trust. It's something you can't take away. All over the country, though. Like, I would stop down in Omaha, be like, "Would you like to check out my selection?" And they'd be like, it's just, I have such a respect for what they do. I hate what they do. They love, like...
Why do you hate what they do? It's like...
Just being in the kitchen, being in the heat,
Yeah.
in the heat of the summer, the intensity of a Friday and Saturday night during rush hour, the prepping that goes... The average consumer doesn't know what goes into the prepping of, any given night at a decent-sized restaurant.
Yeah.
Like, what it takes to actually put that meal on a plate, the manpower behind it, the men and women that are prepping those meals, it is incredible. The time that we have to actually get the product into the basements of the restaurants. I have such a respect for what they do.
And in a private household, you don't quite have that manpower. Like, you're maybe one, maximum 2-person kind of crew, unless you're on a yacht maybe.
Yeah.
And you still have the liver. And it's a workload that sometimes it's hard to communicate with your clients. And like, you do realize I'm a single person. I give you an individual, something that happened just like a week ago, where my client told me basically around 1 p.m. that they have 18 people over for dinner. And I'm like, okay. Like, you realize I'm a one-man show, right?
Yeah.
But
he probably loved it. Every chef loves, like,
I don't know,
treating these people to what he could do,
yeah,
or what she could do.
But at the same time, you feel a little bit, I don't know what the word is here, but it's like, I want to deliver on another level, and I would have liked a little bit more notice, because I could have got better products. I could have been better prepared and serve on another level. And that's sometimes where the short notice life of a private chef, because it's like, hey, we changed plans. Actually, can't get ready for the yacht, and we're having 10 guests, and we're going there in 90 minutes. And I'm like, okay. Like, and then you just have to pull it together. And that's where sometimes purchasing is a different game, because you have to be ready. You just have to have stuff in your fridge. You have to have a couple tins of caviar in a different size. You have to have fishes that maybe someone who is a potential guest likes, that maybe the principal doesn't care for. And that's where stocking and everything comes a completely different game. Because like, when I originally came from the restaurant world, even working at Danielle, we try to make the most of everything. You're trying to get the fish from tail to the head and work with everything you can to the best possible. But in a private chef world, it's a bit different. Like you said, we have different budgets. And because we're a smaller team or just a single individual in the kitchen, we actually waste more, because we have to. Like, we have to buy just like the best of it and the core of it. And we have to be so timely, and we have so much on inventory, because somebody might want it, that it's a little bit like the story you shared about the caviar tins earlier. I was like, I don't know, I have this, like, any of the housekeepers wants to take it, otherwise I have to throw it out. I was speaking to one of the chefs. He was working for the second wealthiest family in Mexico. Every week they stocked the main house and the yacht even if nobody was there, everything was stocked. Every week he would carry out garbage bags of the best products in the world. And like, I don't know if anybody wants this. It's like, don't know where to do it.
It's just like restaurants. I mean, there's a tremendous amount of ways. It always amazed me though, like what private chefs, like you just said, they have to stock up. Like come the summer months in the Hamptons, you know, with our caviar line, like I didn't know who these people were. I'm like, who the hell's buying this? Who's buying this? But there's plenty of people out there, and these private chefs, they have such a unique position. There's such a small, minute, you know, community of these people. They're not in like the crazy hustle bustle of these restaurants, which good for them in my eyes. I don't know. I love what they do. I've never met a chef that can't manage what they put themselves into. I know that. Like
I mean, that's what sets you apart. If you put yourself into these positions, as crazy as they might be, like, you know, maybe between lunch and dinner there's a yacht trip, and then you're back for dinner and it's an entire barbecue for the family, and you're like, you somehow just have to pull it together.
I got a text from a dear friend. He's from Kansas, but he's a well-known New York chef. Opened up a restaurant in London. He does, you know, private parties a lot, but he's so creative in what he does. He's meticulous in every single thing that he does. He reminds me of myself because he cares too much. Like he'd call me down and be like, come down and taste this. And I'd be like, oh yeah, it's awesome. I was like, I think the waiter just said that the bird that you just put on the plate is in the pigeon family, and he would go ballistic. But he just, you know, it's just a feeling of caring and, you know, presenting these dishes to people to actually make them enjoy it. In the private chef industry, they're cooking 5-star cuisine, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Like they're not serving oatmeal. They're literally, you know, it's a present. Every meal is a presentation, and it's expected. They're under a constant amount of pressure, and I mean, I respect the hell out of that. I understand the budgets, but you know, it's a lot.
It is, but that's why we appreciate, you know, the freshest products, because it makes our life easier. So I think we should take a little bit of time. I don't know, maybe you can show us the market.
Yeah.
We take a second and you explain us the difference between this and the fish that's out there in the United States that doesn't have the same kind of freshness.
I think that's the biggest thing for us, is educating people on what's available. I mean, people never see this. I mean, if you want fresh, we have fresh. If you want frozen, we'll freeze tuna, you know, from every continent in the world. You want caviar, we have every caviar you can think of, plus our own private label. It's a selection of the most amazing things that you're about to see.
Yeah. Well, Jody, thank you so much.
Yeah.
And
thank you, Hans.
The beauty is today we actually right here, so we get to go out there and see the fish market.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course.
Appreciate it.
It's good.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
We'd like to thank our sponsor, FultonFishMarket.com, the best seafood in the nation, trusted by the best chefs in the world. Aside from offering premium seafood, they also make life easier for you by delivering all these outstanding products right to your doorstep. Visit the official website www.fultonfishmarket.com and explore the incredible selection of seafood, and let your clients experience quality that has captivated palates for generations. Use code PRIVATECHEF at checkout to get 15% of your first order. When it comes to seafood, FultonFishMarket.com is the name we trust. Thank you for joining us at the Private Chef podcast. If you know any highly skilled chefs that want to take their life to the next level, make sure to share this podcast with them. And if you enjoyed this episode, click subscribe and check out our upcoming episodes. Thank you for listening.